Hello, welcome to TrueHoop with me, Jarod Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I am. I'm moving along. It's going to be a rough next month or so. The first round of the playoffs, and I've got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, there's going to be sleep will be at a premium, but it's a good time to be busy.
We talked about that this is the time of year, particularly in the first round of the postseason, because that's when you have the most teams, obviously, right? And so there are games literally every night, and not just one, multiple games every night, right? And so you literally got the schedule comes out, and it's like, what am I watching live? What am I going to watch on Synergy or whatever I choose to watch it on the next morning, right? Because this will drive you nuts. I'm looking at the Saturday schedule already. I'm like, all right, Philly, the early game at 1, Warriors tip at 8:30. Back in my younger days, David, in my 20s, I'd be like, yeah, I could probably sit all day and watch all 4 of those games. That ain't happening. I'm probably going to go to the Philly game, Philly Brooklyn game 1, and then we'll see what happens when I get home from Philly that night.
I just got a note from my wife just now. I'm going to read it to you. I do not want to spend every night just watching TV together now that your season's over. Maybe we'll have a magazine night, a book night, a game night, just not TV night every night. My dear, dear wife of over 32 years doesn't understand. The playoffs are every night. In her mind, I mean, listen, we try 4 nights a week. We have dinner at our dining room table, our kitchen table. We have a little bistro in our house that we sit at sometimes, and just the 2 of us with music on, whatever. But most nights by 7:30, I got to go watch games. The playoffs a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I don't always have to watch guys, but before our podcast, I do. Mm-hmm. Before articles, I do. So we got to pick our spots. But we've managed to do it I've been doing this for 20 years now, so we'll figure it out. But
you'll figure it out.
Today was not the day to send me the note that, we can't be watching games every night.
You're like, well.
Yeah, give me 2 more weeks. There's just so many games now. When you get down to the semifinals of the conference, then I can, I can watch them in Synergy so fast.
Yeah,
and I value that. I value my marriage more, but I do like knowing what the hell's going on in these games. You can't just watch highlights.
No. It's because
you don't get the flavor.
We see adjustments, right? Things happen. You got to change. You have one tactic, and we're going to double Embiid, and it's like maybe that's not a good idea.
It's also the energy you play with, and that's something we're looking at. There's strategies in games I've noticed in years past, like LeBron not trying to score in the first quarter.
Right.
So sometimes that worries me a little bit because they'll be down too much to come back from. The other night he had 30 points in the second half of the game. He needs to engage more, but I know his body can't always. So I can't just do highlights. But whatever, this is a good time to be a basketball fan, in my opinion. Starting with the playing games, they'll be one and done.
Yeah.
I wish they were in Vegas. I wish we had like a tournament. I really do. I really wish the play-in was in one spot.
Yeah, if they did it at like a neutral site, like in Vegas or something, that would be fun. That would
super
be
cool.
That would be cool. All right, David. So the regular season ended on Sunday, and it was quite a funny day because those 1 o'clock tips. None of those games mattered.
I watched them. I had 2 games on,
I was at Brooklyn, Philly, and that was an interesting game.
Yeah. I liked it.
Doc Rivers before the game, we'll ask him questions, and this is why media loves Doc, because Doc likes to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Doc, he's like, I'm trying to get home to watch the Masters. Is John Rahm going to hold like that? He's like, Doc, if you're going to call timeouts in today's game, what's my record for least timeouts called in a game? Like he was like, we want the clock to keep running.
Well, some teams play that way too, like the Mavericks.
Well, Jesus. Yeah. We'll talk about them in a minute.
Yeah.
But in the 3:30 tip games, some of those games had some real stakes.
Yeah.
The New Orleans Pelicans and Minnesota Timberwolves. That was for deciding who was going to be the 7th seed. Sure enough, the Timberwolves ended up winning that game, coming back from down double digits twice in that game to win. But of course, that's not the story. That is the headline today. The headline today is Rudy Gobert punches Kyle Anderson in the chest during a timeout on the sideline. The Minnesota Timberwolves sent Rudy Gobert home, not just in the locker room. They said, go home, leave the arena. The Timberwolves come back and ultimately win the game. They are the 7th seed. They will play the Los Angeles Lakers in LA on Tuesday. We'll get to that breakdown in a minute.
They're playing in LA?
Mm-hmm.
So Minnesota's the 8th seed.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Sorry, what I say, the 7th seed?
Yeah.
That is for the 7th seed.
That's right. They're playing for the 7th seed. Right?
Correct. So look, we've seen stuff like this. Shit, we saw Draymond Green punch Jordan Poole in the face, right? Literally levitate off the ground and knock him to the ground in practice. We saw that. Video came out. Draymond got sent away from the team for a little bit, whatever. Okay, Rudy punched him in the chest, and this was clearly like more of a in-game situation, right? They were arguing about, dude, can you block a shot? Well, can you grab a rebound? And then, tempers flare, competitive moment, etc. The question now is, what do the Timberwolves do? Do they, which people are reporting, do they sit him in that next game, which is possible, and go to LA without Rudy? They're already going to be without, other story, Jaden McDaniels for the game because he punched the wall and has fractured his hand and is out for the season.
Do we know why he punched the wall?
I think he was angry for picking up a second foul.
Got it.
And
never punch a wall, by the way.
Yes.
I have a teammate in high school that did that, and we didn't have him for the championship game.
And they are without Naz Reid already. David, this is a very unserious basketball team to me. This is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, collectively, that's how it comes across. It doesn't mean individually every guy is, obviously, but collectively, it seems to be a real problem. And, I don't know how long ago, but wasn't that long ago, not a year, when they acquired Rudy, gave away up to 7 picks and all of that. That's not looking good.
Nope.
Yeah, it's not looking good. It might be looking awful. And it's funny how things can change so quickly. And they were playing better this second half of the season, for sure, as we expected them to do, as they got more acclimated. Of course, not having Cat for a long time. Yep. I mean, they could have really had a hell of a season if he played the whole time and figured that out earlier. And so as for how do they handle Rudy? Well, that's what conversations have to be about. Let's talk to him. Let's get squared away. Let's get Kyle and Rudy to say, hey, we fucked up. We'll move on. And then it could be fine. But you have to address it. And I don't think teams are great at addressing these things all the time.
I will say this. Rudy, Mike Conley said after the game, Rudy already sent a text to the team group chat apologizing. He went out on Twitter and apologized for it. And Kyle said after the game, we're both grown men. We're competitive. We'll talk and we'll move forward. Because these things, despite what fans think, they happen more often than you realize. Guys are competitive and get pissed at each other, right? And you said something to us this morning on our TrueHoop content call. How do teammates hold one another accountable? Right. And is the environment where your team right to do that? Is it the right environment to allow players to hold each other accountable? It may not be right in Minnesota.
I mean, it's a huge thing now. The last 5-10 years in the corporate world is accountability and holding people accountable and expressing yourself and not keeping things inside. It's almost like a cottage industry from the consultant point of view. It's something I even looked into doing. You've got to be able to talk to each other. It's something that some colleges spend a lot of time and even some money on, bringing people in to help these younger athletes hold each other accountable. And I'll just speak honestly. When I talk to my son, it's a conversation he and I have, and I'm going to see him in person this week. How are you doing holding teammates accountable? And how are you handling when they do the same to you? It is a big deal in a lot of places. And in Minnesota, it didn't work out. I don't know. I mean, I don't love what Kyle said, but they're just words, Rudy. We can't just be throwing punches because of words, So that to me suggests there's something a little deeper, darker even. Or it could just be Rudy had a bad day for a million other things that are nothing with basketball. It doesn't mean that they're going to lay an egg in LA. It's just not what you want. It's not optimal. And quite frankly, LA has become a hell of a team. Not world beaters, but a hell of a team.
Right.
You're not just going to beat them on the road without really probably playing very well, which they're capable of doing. This just makes it harder.
There's been reporting from various people that blow up that actually started in the locker room and spilled over. And part of the stuff they're reporting is that Rudy is dealing with some kind of back tightness and injury, so maybe he's not quite as mobile, able to protect the rim quite as well. Right. So all these things that and again, in a game where the team has to win, right? You get it. Right? It's that kind of single elimination, even though you're not eliminated if you lose, but you want to control your destiny by winning. Right. So emotions are high, everybody. Right. It's a tense situation. And, these are things that come out sometimes in these scenarios. To your point, David, yes, does the team address it? How do they move forward? But look, ultimately at the end of the day, Minnesota's not a team to me, regardless of whether they win in LA on Tuesday or they get the 8 seed. They're not beating anybody in the first round to me. I don't see.
I don't think it's likely either. They certainly would be heavy underdogs, deservedly so. Whereas LA, as a 7 seed, I think is capable of, or even 8 seed. is capable of pulling an upset. So even though Minnesota could beat LA in one game, LA is the more likely team to win 4 games in 7. We know this in the NCAA tournament. The variability in any one game is extreme, especially when you're shooting maybe a 53s in a game.
Yep. No,
right.
Correct.
As I used to always say, when Houston was playing Golden State, back when Houston was shooting close to 53s a game, they make 22 in any game. They're probably winning that game.
Yep. You're
That's
losing
66 points on 22 possessions. If you take 50, and you get offensive rebounds, whatever, like it's a problem. So I think that in any one game, anyone can win, but over a course of 7, LA is the more dangerous team.
No doubt. Another team, David, that had a horrific end to their season, the Dallas Mavericks. That dumpster fire. Luka is saying like everything's fine, everything's okay. I don't believe that for a second.
He said exactly, I'm not looking to leave. I like it here.
Right.
Is that what his said?
Yeah.
That was his statement. Yeah.
I'm not buying that for a second.
Yeah.
Kyrie refused to do his exit interview and not speak to the media. And this is not a jump on Kyrie thing. Again, he is like number 78 on their list of like, what's wrong with that team? It ain't him, right? They got a lot of other problems.
It's definitely not him not talking to the media is not a problem.
Yeah, that's not the issue. We talked about this at some point. When do we hold Mark Cuban accountable for what is going on in Dallas, right? You're the guy. You're the guy out in front, being in front on TV and doing all your things. You are the guy. You hired Jason Kidd, who we talked about this around the All-Star break when he made those comments about, I'm just here watching, and that drove you nuts. You're like, what do you mean you're just watching? You're not inspiring? Listen, you're not leading?
He's right. He watched them lose a bunch of games, right? They had a losing record with Kyrie, didn't they?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And so who runs their team now? Is it Nico
Harrison? Yes, the GM. Yep.
From Nike.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Nico. I haven't talked to him in probably 20 years, but like that's not the same thing. Running a sneaker company for brand imaging or whatever he was doing. Ain't selling sneakers ain't the same as winning basketball games.
No.
And I am completely biased for sure. But as a lifelong basketball coach that spends countless hours and always has studying the game, studying players and trends and everything, that is not good practice to make decisions to make your team better at basketball. You may learn budgeting things. You may learn trending things and marketing, whatever. This is a different animal than that. And so I'm not suggesting he can't do it. The evidence right now suggests that he can't. Right? It's not me, my opinion. It's what the game looks like here. It is a fucking mess. Yeah. More on that later. I have more to add to that later.
And Cuban came out last week with the comments about them not being able to re-sign Jalen Brunson. And to me, that was all smoke and mirrors and him signaling out there like, oh, it's not our fault we couldn't sign Jalen. His dad, Rick, got involved and we had no choice. It's like, dude, you could have offered more money because you owned his bird right. So you either did or you did not, right? And I don't know what the deal was there. I'm thinking he didn't. And the likelihood now is he's putting it out there. It's like, oh, no, it's not that we don't offer players contracts. We do. They just chose to do something different. He's trying to save face on this end. But players are smart. They talk to each other and they know. Who knows what they're saying about the Dallas Mavericks as an organization right now. But again, to me, not a good look for what the future holds in Dallas. Luka's a generational talent. And you don't figure out a way to maximize everything around him. And you have to, it's with every player, right, David? You know what their skill sets are, and you have to build the roster around what their skills are. He's not so great on defense. You better have some plus defenders and shooting around him, right? Like, you know the things to do. Figure it out and make it happen. They're not doing that right now.
Yeah. Listen, it's absolutely possible and maybe even probable, based on some reporting that we've done, that Jalen Brunson was going to go to New York no matter what you paid him. And so maybe it's true that you offered him, or maybe it's true you knew he would never accept it. Whatever. Like, this is the game you're in. It's a hard game. There's 29 teams trying to beat your brains in. And some of them are well run. Your team has made poor decision after poor decision, in my opinion, starting with your head coach. I realized that they made the conference finals last year. Congratulations. You won one game in the conference. I believe they lost the Warriors in 5.
Yep.
Memphis gave a better challenge.
For sure.
You have a truly generational talent in Luka, who is problematic, but the metrics are the metrics. He is extraordinary. And I love Dwight Powell, but he's your starting center. Something's wrong.
Not good.
Yeah, something's wrong with all those guys. They need they have a lot of work to do. It's possible to do it. They don't have a lot of good young assets either, which is a problem. Did they keep their pick, or did they just lose it? They was top 10 protected.
Yes. It's top 10 protected. So we'll see.
I did look to see,
because being that they're out now, they'll be in the lottery. So that since they didn't make the play-in, they are a lottery team.
I don't remember if they're. I have so many stories here. The draft is not something I'm looking at, but I don't know if they finished 10th or 11th in the regular season record. If they're 11th, I think they keep it. If it's 10th, I think it's gone. Maybe to the Wizards.
And this is why it's not just the moves you make for the player today. As a GM, right, you got to see the move in front of me and the chessboard 5 years. You got to do it all at the same time. And as you said, it's fucking hard. Like, it's a really hard job. Right now, Mavs not doing the job well.
Yeah, the Wizards, if I understand this right, the Wizards got an all-NBA level player in Porzingis, the way he played this year, and potentially a number 10 pick.
That'll be rough, man.
That's
if they lose, that is rough.
I need to look that up. Yeah.
And when was the last time Dallas got a free agent, like a marquee free agent?
Yeah, well, they traded for Porzingis.
Right. That someone signed there on their own.
They had DeAndre Jordan. That didn't work out well. Right. That didn't work. He didn't stay. He didn't last there.
Nope.
He didn't sign there. The funny story with Lamar Odom.
Right. Yeah.
That was a disaster.
I mean, we're going back, right? I mean, no one marquee. So that's also something to keep in mind. Like, this idea of, we can clear cap space for who? Like, who's going to be like, yeah, sign me up for that?
First of all, we'll get into later some of the things that celebrities and coaches and athletes can handle politically with states. We'll get to that later. But I mean, Texas is like Florida right now. It's a fucked up place.
Disaster. All right, David, let's look at some play-in, matchups.
Yeah.
In the East, the 8 and the 7, the Atlanta Hawks playing the Miami Heat. This is for the 7 seed. The game is in Miami, so the winner of this is the 7 seed. The loser plays the winner of the 9-10 matchup for the 8 seed. This is NCAA tournament style, right? It's single elimination, so anything can happen. If the Hawks hit a bunch of threes, Heat probably losing that game.
Right, and vice versa. Yeah, it's 48 minutes, not 40, so it's 8 more minutes. Miami, I think, has a stronger foundation. Utah, Quinn Snyder's Utah teams rebounded well. He's made that impact in Atlanta. That's good. Jimmy Butler's the best player on the court.
For sure.
And that really matters to me.
Spo's the best coach.
Especially in the playoffs. Bam is very good. I'd favor Miami. I mean, I would never bet any of these games. They're just one and dones are so hard because of what you said. Like, the variability of someone getting hot. Atlanta's got a bunch of good players. So, and Miami can really struggle to score.
Yes, they can.
They can really struggle to score. So, but I would favor. I don't care that the home team so much. If there's a neutral site game, I'd favor Miami.
So the winner of this has the unenviable task of playing the Boston Celtics in round 1. Yippee! I will say this. If it is the Miami Heat, regardless of their struggles in the half court and this, that, and the third, I know for a fact, and they ain't going to be scared of no Boston Celtics. That's for damn sure. Like, the Celtics are better, and I've showed it all year, but Jimmy Butler will 100% go into that series being like, oh no, we can beat them.
I agree. I think the same thing, that if you are Boston, you want Atlanta to win. You want Atlanta to win. Yeah. You don't want to deal with Miami. Yeah. They're just professional, and they play a lot of zone, and
they play hard.
They really compete. And they've been around with Spo for a while, whereas Snyder's kind of, still kind of new. I guarantee he doesn't know his way around Atlanta all that well. But we've seen Trae Young be the man.
We have.
And we can't forget that. Miami will have a plan for him. It doesn't mean it'll work. They're not great at stopping guards. So we'll see. It'll be good to watch.
That battle for the 8th spot is always interesting because you got to play 2 games. So Bulls at Raptors, right? The winner of that plays the loser of the game we just mentioned. So first, let's start with Toronto. Some strange things happening out of the land up north. Nick Nurse might be wanting to go on a sabbatical. I don't know what's happening over there. The Bulls, the Lonzo Ball thing, I think, really hurt them all year.
So sad.
Yeah, and his career now, I don't know what's going to happen to this kid because he's still young. He's 20, maybe? I don't know.
No, he's older than that.
Okay, but he's not
But
30.
He might be 25.
Right. He ain't 30.
Yeah.
And
No.
this is sad, right? But anyway, but Zach LaVine's playing like an all-star. DeRozan's been good all year. Patrick Williams is coming along. So this could be I could see the Bulls winning this. I could definitely see them winning this game for sure.
Oh, absolutely, they could. I think it's in Chicago, isn't it?
Am
I wrong?
Check. It is. No, it's at Toronto because Toronto's a 9.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay. Chicago's 10. Okay, so that's right. Toronto was hoping to be a 7-8. They just lost a couple games late. Yeah, I think Toronto's better with Pirtle. They have kind of look like a more normal team. It's weird that I think Nick's gone. And I think I think so. Okay. I think they think that. Oh, right. And so it's just an awkward. It's just
you're playing for a lame duck coach. It's like, well, what?
Yeah, these are two. I mean, they'll want to win, but these are two teams that I thought would be better this year. Chicago has an excuse. The Raptors really don't. Yeah, this is a failure on management and coaching to not bring that team together faster. You knew they needed a center. You waited so long. And you kind of lost another season. Pascal had an all-NBA level year. OG, all defense. Yeah. Scotty Barnes came around having a very good second half of the second season. They got a lot of talent there. The Bulls, I think, are playing better. I think the games will be really good. Yeah. They don't guarantee they will be. All these teams are capable of sucking.
Well, that's why they are where they are in the standings, right? Because,
exactly. Yeah.
Back to Toronto really quick. Do you think? Okay, so if Nurse goes on sabbatical and they're talking like, we'll get to this in a minute, he could be a head coach possibility candidate somewhere else in the NBA. Yeah. Do they not blow it up, but do they kind of hit some reset button? Does OG get sent somewhere?
It's a great question. If you don't think a particular player likes it there, and it's not just because of Nick, then I would trade. So, for example, if OG was just miserable in Toronto for whatever reason, he has a lot of value. Trade him.
Yeah, he does.
If that's not the case and you think it's more coach-driven, I think that they finished 2 years in a row, they finished strong. Not as strong as they needed to, especially this year, but definitely better once they got Pirtle. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't blow it up just yet. They need a point guard. They need a backup point guard. They're going to start Freddie at the 1. Mm-hmm. I would bring Freddie off the bench. And I said this from day one. And they needed a center. They got their center. Now they need a point guard, I think, and a little more depth. Their bench sucked, and that's management's fault.
So maybe it is the bones, because the bones of a very good team is there.
Yeah.
This summer, your boy Scotty Barnes, he has got to this summer. I know you said you're like, I don't know.
Bad start last year,
but it looks like he played a lot of basketball this summer. But when he developed this game, he's got to do the development this summer to be ready come next
season. He's got to make a bigger jump. Again, he finished, I think his last game or so, he had a really big game. He just wasn't as good as he needs to be, so can't shoot. But yeah, they've got what you said is right. Their foundation is built to be a 50-win team, not a 60-win team, but a 50-win team. Scotty's got to make a big jump, which is possible in year 3. We've seen it a lot. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, if Siakam just can stay the course, now they got 2 studs like that. Mm-hmm. OG also can make another jump. Mm-hmm. And they have those 3 wings that every team wants and needs. Huge. You got the big you want now. Pirtle's a good player. You got to pay him. Mm-hmm. And then you got to find much more guard help and backup help. You have Gary Trent, too, who's a solid player, obviously, who has value if you want to trade him. That's an option, too.
So maybe you haven't thought about it, but if Nurse is gone, who would you like to see there? Who do you think would be a good fit to kind of get this thing turned around, assuming that management does the right thing with the roster and get the pieces they need?
So I think franchises that develop their assistant coaches to take over when their head coach either has to leave or just decides he wants something else, maybe move into management, whatever. And so Earl Watson, who's been a head coach before in Phoenix, did not go well at all, but that was the Robert Sarver Phoenix team. I'm not holding anyone to blame for that garbage. My understanding is he's well respected by the players there. He's a no-nonsense guy. People that I don't know Earl, people that I know swear by his basketball IQ, his overall knowledge and feel for the game. And so I would first like to see him. Just because he was Nick's top assistant doesn't mean the team was run the way he'd want to run it.
Right.
I would want it. I don't really think the interviews typically go. I don't think there's a lot of meaning to interviews. I think it's a bunch of bullshit mostly. But I would want from him, what would you were here. What would you have done differently? That's the most valuable interview of all. Yes. How would you have coached differently this year, holding players accountable? What do we run that's different? And then I would speak, if I was Messiah, I would speak to my team, my best players. How do you think the team responds to Earl? And if they say, "Oh, we like him," I give it a chance. Yeah, if you liked his interview.
I love that, David. And as a player development coach and someone who talks to NBA players, NBA assistants, you talk to all these people all day long. The job of an NBA head coach, though, is kind of multiple hats at once, right? It's X's and O's, it's accountability, it's part psychology. You're doing a lot of different things, and so as a head coach, what are the qualities you think are the most important for you to have? Knowing you so well, I think I know what the first ones you're going to say is humility is number one.
I wouldn't have said that, but you're right. You're right. I think this is where I think coaches fail the most is we have an incredible lack of the communication going on in the NBA now. I know this firsthand. That's got to change. I think some coaches do a great job. I think we've talked about this. I read somewhere, maybe someone told us, I don't remember who we even heard, that the OKC head coach was having breakfast with Chet once a week.
Yep.
I love that shit.
That's awesome.
I really like that. That's not happening much. I have a story that just happened the other day where a player told me he had fallen out of the rotation. I think the coaches were wrong, but it's the way it goes. Days go by. No one says a word to him. He just never plays at all. And then he runs into his head coach in an elevator. And the coach says, "Hey, really great job being professional. I know you're frustrated, but I really greatly appreciate how professional you've been." And the player called me and I said, he couldn't fucking tell you in person every day he saw you at practice. How about let's have coffee, let's have dinner. Yeah. It was you ran into me in an elevator and had no choice but to say something to me. Yeah. That's a coward to me. Or it's just an uncomfortable guy. Yeah. This is the way it goes. And a lot of these coaches kiss the ass of these superstars. They're afraid to coach them. I understand why they're afraid of them. That doesn't mean it's good. It's not a good thing. We don't have a good communication. That's one thing. You've got to be innovative as a coach. You always have to be pressing the right buttons. You've got to get guys to really want to compete for you. You got to put together good game plans. I think player development's a really big deal that you oversee with other people doing it. When you say humility, that to me means my ideas doesn't have to be the right one. So I want to get better at defensive rebounding. Here's my plan. Let's go around the room. Who's got the other plans? And I'm going to pick the best one, not just mine. You can even ask your best players too what they think. That's a form of humility too.
And it's to do all that, right? That means having top assistants and other people on your bench and on your staff who theoretically could take your job. Yeah. But you've got to be secure enough in who you are to not be worried about that, right? And no, I want what's best for us to win, not what's best for me, which you always say, right? Are we doing it for me or for we, right? Yeah. And it's coaches they're human, right? Happens to them too, just like for players. Really interesting. I'll be curious to see how that all plays out in Toronto.
I agree.
All right, let's move to the Western Conference plan. We talked about it a little bit. Timberwolves at the Lakers. Look, the Lakers have been hot lately. 21-11, if I'm not mistaken, in their last 32 games. Don't quote me directly, but they've been above 500 for sure. Better defense for sure. Offense,
way better defense, top 3 in the league defense.
Offense, they still struggle a bit, but their defense turns them into offense.
They won a championship that way
and do some things.
That's how they won the championship.
You believe, especially with this fractured Minnesota team coming in, that they can win this game at home easy and be the 7th seed, which means they're going to Memphis to take on my Grizzlies in the first round.
And I think they can win that series too.
Oh, no! We'll talk about that on Thursday.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think L.A., the bottom line is they want to win by 1, but they can build some momentum, some swagger. They need some of that. They are defending, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And Austin Reeves has been excellent. The Rui Hachimura pickup, like that. The pieces
Malik
all
Beasley.
make sense.
Malik Beasley.
Firecracker off the bench can shoot it. Yeah. This is.
Oh, D'Angelo Russell. I think they're 8-0. I think with the big 3 he played, him being the third one, I think they're 8-0.
And look, I know people love to crap on D'Angelo Russell for a variety of reasons.
I like him.
He was an all-star in this league.
I like him.
He's a very he was a top. Was he a top? Top 2 pick?
Number 2 pick.
Right, for a reason, right? He's very, very good. Yeah. They will be a tough team, no doubt. Look, we'll talk about it if they play Memphis. I still like Memphis because they've been better all season long, but that will be a fun series. And then Minnesota, if they lose, they get the 9-10, which is Pels and Oklahoma City Thunder. We loved Oklahoma City all year because Mark Daniel, we just talked about, they run stuff on both ends of the floor. Those guys compete hard. They shoot a ton of threes. So if they make 25 threes that night, they're beating the Pels. Sorry. Like, game over.
Yeah, New Orleans offense is suspect. They do have Brandon Ingram,
who's excellent.
The way Shea is playing, he's the best player on the court in a lot of games, but I don't know if he's better than Brandon. It's close. Like, they're both really playing well. New Orleans plays better defense and has been playing better.
They do.
It's a connected group. I just saw them when I was in Denver recently. But, in any one game, the way OKC drives and kicks, and Shea is so unguardable. Between Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels, that's two guys that are good defenders. Dyson is only a rookie. He'll get called for fouls. But they can make it tougher. Valanciunas can really – Valanciunas can have a field day in the paint, I think, also. Brandon's OKC is not going to have anyone that can really stay with him. No. He's got to shoot well. Yeah,
and then Alvarado off the bench.
He has been out. I don't know if he's back yet. Did he come back
for the I haven't seen him play yet. I don't know.
He was out. I haven't looked. They play tomorrow night. It'll be fast.
Speaking of injury status, Zion Williamson. It came out he will not be playing in the play-in game. You saw him in Denver, and you talked about like he just doesn't look right physically yet. Look, I saw this tweet that got put out the other day. In 4 seasons, he's played 118 of a possible 308 games, something of that nature. And they just signed him to a rookie max extension. Guys, if you're New Orleans, you've got to be concerned. You're David Griffin, you're 100% concerned about your franchise superstar, right? When you pay a guy that much and you give him the rookie max extension, it's because when he plays, he's really good. You're like, this is a multiple MVP candidate. Matter of fact, Coach David Thorpe said, Zion, MVP. And if he played, he certainly would be an MVP candidate. Fact is, he's not playing. And that's just, in a salary cap league, if he is not able to play games, that's a $40 million anchor you have just sitting on your roster that you can't just move it.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah. It's just sad. He's such a good player. They've got a lot of figuring out to do. It's possible he could return for the playoffs. He was just so out of shape when I saw him. I'm not surprised they said, we've had a setback in a sense. I think the setback was he just isn't close to being ready. God, I'd love to see him and Ingram together.
Oh my goodness! Like
for a long period of time, because when he was there to start the year, Brandon was out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they played together this year. Maybe a couple of games, not a lot.
No, we predicted that would be the team. Oh, it could be Memphis, like Memphis was last year, if they stayed healthy. But
we were right. It was Zion. I think they would have been.
But so that'll be interesting to see. All right, guys, we will be back after a quick commercial break. All right, David, you sent an interesting tweet in our TrueHoop group chat about, a fairly decent scorer. You might have heard of him, called Kevin Durant. He had an excellent year despite only playing 47 games. He has a 67.7% true shooting percentage this year, which is a career high for him. And it is the highest in league history for players with a usage percentage of at least 30%. So for all you people who are like, what the fuck do all these numbers mean? He has possessions a lot, which means he shoots a lot, but he makes a lot of shots. That is incredible.
And free throws.
And free throws. Because a lot of people who are volume guys are not high true shooting. Listen, sorry, Kobe fans. True shooting numbers, Kobe ain't high on that. Volume guy.
60 and higher is a very, very good number. He's at 67.
60. So that's just, listen, everyone knows how much I love Kevin Durant on this podcast. To me, forget about like numbers of like who's done what in the history of NBA. To me, in my many years watching the game, and I started watching in 85, NBA Finals, Lakers and Celtics, the best scorer of the basketball I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, I saw prime Michael Jordan. Kevin Durant can just do more things in more ways. Sorry. Like, that's just how I feel about it. He's incredible. He's so efficient. And Phoenix, David, they're just kind of humming along. They got Clippers in the first round. We'll talk about that on Thursday. But Clippers with no Paul George might be a nice way to ease into the postseason.
Well, they have to have Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah. Speaking of someone who's also elite at shooting the basketball, it's Kawhi Leonard.
Kevin. If Jordan was 7 feet tall, he'd be like that now.
Yes.
Where he doesn't have to rely on athleticism quite as much, which he didn't as he got older. Mm-hmm. Just a shot maker, playmaker. Durant is just a cheat code for playoffs.
Of those 30 all-time true shooting seasons, the best in league history, Durant owns 6 of them.
6, wow.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Amazing.
He's a pretty good player.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think they do have a nice little I really right now I pick them to get to the finals.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mentioned I was at the Philly game, the Nets Sixers game on Sunday, and I asked Jock after the game, so you got a week off. You know who your opponent's going to be. How do you handle not letting your guys, fat's not the right word, but you know what I mean, not letting them get fat because they're not playing, versus we got to stay sharp and conditioned. We want to maintain injury. And like, he really thought about it. He was like, it's a balance. He's like, we have a plan. He's like, we're going to err on the side of caution as it relates to scrimmaging because we don't want to go hard 2 times. Somebody bangs knees. Now we're screwed, right? So it's this tough kind of balance you got to play here. How hard do we practice this week? If you were a coach and you have a week off with an older team, especially, even a young team, how hard are you practicing this week?
Yeah, I would go hard some, but less competitively. I would work on 5-on-0 type stuff at pace. Keep our conditioning, our fitness level up. Yesterday in the Kings game, Domantas went down hard. And I don't know if he caught a pop to the pills, to the stomach, but he went down and looked like he was hurt. He was fine, but he was down for a bit. They had to call timeout. And then I saw Mike Brown smile. I realized, okay, he must have stood up, and he stood up, and he was fine. But yeah, it's there's a risk there. You got to be careful if you're Phoenix.
Yeah. So for sure, all these teams this week, they're gonna, the ones that are off, they're gonna definitely. The main thing for them, the ones in their matchups are, they're gonna go over and drill hard what our game plan is, right? Like who we're keying on, what the assignments are, all those things, and you're gonna have to keep your conditioning up because not playing basketball for the Sun starters, David. Thursday of last week was the last time they played a game. So that'll be 10 days without playing basketball.
Yeah, but that's where Durant and Chris Paul really help. They'll get you wherever you want.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, but you got to go game speed in your workouts, even without competition, and you can simulate that pretty good, I think.
Yeah, for sure. All right, with the play-in and playoffs here, David, officiating is something that's going to be a hot topic. And I was thinking about this anecdotally. It seemed to me this season that more players were just outright calling out officials for what they believe to be some shenanigans. And of course, the most famous ones being Fred VanVleet, Rudy Gobert, right? Just literally, and Scotty Barnes, right? Calling into a question the referee's integrity. Are you cheating me out of this game?
They're not calling him blind.
Right.
They're saying you're cheating.
You're cheating me, which that's a strong accusation. Yeah. And with the postseason coming, I'm just waiting for the first player because a game's gonna come down to something. A player doesn't leave a foul call. They're gonna scream to the holy heavens. The league's gonna find them, of course, but it's gonna happen. And what are you thinking about when it comes to the playoffs, playing and officiating?
Yeah, I watched the Knicks game yesterday, and I thought it was like an AAU game. You have to be a basketball AAU guy to know what I mean. These referees are calling 10, 12, 14 straight games a day. There's not a lot of fouls being called. You had to really learn to play tough. Yeah. And meanwhile, my son for most time was this tiny little kid until he really grew. And it wasn't fair for him, but this is how it was. I don't blame the referees. I blame the managers, the people who run the events, charging all this money for parents and then not want to pay the referees anything. So what you said is right. The image of NBA referees is a little bit suspect right now, more so than I think most years. And so I've also noticed a lot of delayed calls, which is not something I've seen in the NBA that I can ever remember. It is something very common I've seen in college over the years. And I've had refs even tell me they did that. Mm-hmm. They wanted to make sure there was real impact on the play so they could speed up the play. I've seen that in the NBA this year like never before. This is a chance for the NBA referees to kind of change that narrative. And let's hope after round 1, round 2, going to the finals where people have said, you know what, we haven't had a controversy yet. They've been super sharp. And so it's on them. Whoever's in charge of them should be doing a pep talk like they're playing a game. Like, well, let's be on it. Let's manage these games. Let's be consistent for 4 quarters. Mm-hmm. A foul is a foul. A non-foul is a non-foul, no matter who does it, no matter what the time and score context is. Let them play. Don't let them play. Just be consistent all the way through so teams can adjust. Players can adjust individually, which does happen all the time. And I hope that they can turn that around.
Yeah. Because it would be really unfortunate to mar what we think is going to be a great playoffs with questions about this. And Adam and the league don't want this. Like they don't want this. So
no, they have safeguards in place, just not really great safeguards.
Yeah,
like having the fox guard the henhouse, so to speak.
No, for sure. So we hope that that's not really a point of issue this postseason. We're kind of in the prediction business. David's a smart guy. He did say there's going to be a lot of parity this season. He was right. We didn't do a running tally on every prediction David made, but I would venture to say probably 7 out of 10 times he's right about most things this season. But there are some things that surprised us this season that we were like, holy hell, I didn't see that coming. So we each picked a couple of things we thought were just wow, came out of nowhere. So for you, what was your first one?
So okay, we'll go back and forth. So the first, we've talked about both that I'm going to say now. It was Toronto's complete inability to be any good. Mm-hmm. I really thought they could be terrific this year. I knew Siakam put in a lot of work in the offseason. Scotty Barnes is a huge talent. OG has an edge about him. I've been a big fan and believer in Nick Nurse. Mm-hmm. I was wrong. He did not do a good job. They have major flaws there. Masai's my friend, but they did not put when they went to the season without a real point guard backup. I thought, well, either they know something I don't know, or I know something they don't realize yet. Well, I was right on that, but I did not expect that to happen. I thought they'd win 47 games. I wrote, I don't know what they won, but it wasn't that. Maybe 40, 41, something like that. And so, yeah, that surprised me.
Yeah. For me, my first one was the Knicks. I didn't think they were going to be bad. I think I figured somewhere around 500. They're very good. Like they have an identity. They know what they do. Listen, we know we have our Tibbs quibbles, and we've said them a million times on this show. But he has his team playing hard. Mitchell Robinson's been excellent. Quickly and Grimes have been really good.
Yep.
Jalen Brunson, of course, has been a revelation.
Game changer.
And as much as the profile of the Cavaliers suggests they are a better team, poised for a deep playoff run, that first round series against the Knicks is not going to be a cakewalk. We're thinking 6 or 7 games between those two teams, assuming health, of course, and nobody twists an ankle or whatever. But it's the Knicks have been really, really a surprise this year. And maybe, David, they did some player development. Maybe some guys developed either on their own or something happened.
Yeah, I think they're a well-run team now. I do. I think they've done a good job. And I think I only had them winning low 40s. So they outdid me. Mm-hmm. All right, second surprise. We talked about them too. Dallas's complete demise. Mm-hmm. Like Luka is such a generational player. For them to not make the playoffs in a bad West is indicative of something pretty significant. I did not see that happening at all.
I mean, they went to the conference finals last year. Why would you see that, right? I mean, like it doesn't make any sense. Now, granted, they did.
Well, they lost Brunson, and I should have realized that's a bigger loss than it was.
The Brunson loss is huge, and they get demeritus, David, for not figuring out that we lost. Right?
Yep.
What was your plan for losing Brunson? Right. There was none. And
something's wrong when you bring in Kyrie and you get worse. It's not Kyrie's fault what happened there.
Correct.
Something's rotten in Dallas.
And we talked about it. Mark Cuban's got to do some soul searching about what he wants to do to the direction of this team. The other one for me that surprises a general thing, but I'll key in on one player. When you do a podcast with David Thorpe for as many pods as I have, you start thinking like a player development coach, and you realize, it's about environments and systems and seeing what players do. Maybe this team only asked them to do one thing because that's all they wanted them to do.
Right.
Guys can flourish in other places. Boy, oh boy, Mikal Bridges, in his time in Phoenix, I think had 2 30-point games in his career. 11 already with Brooklyn as a number one option.
Amazing.
And he's an efficient scorer. I mean, he's not, but dare I say, KD light, right? Like in the way he plays. Listen, they're so happy with him in Brooklyn. Sean Marks loves him. He's an Iron Man, plays every game. Well, though, you know how I feel about that. That has a tax at some point. Yeah. And he might experience it come the postseason. Yeah. And the other thing he's going to experience in the postseason, David, is, all right, you're the number one option in the regular season when we don't really scout. Cool. Well, now we know you're the scoring option come the postseason. We're going to design to take you away. That's the evolution that number one options have to go through, right? Okay, now we know you're number one on everybody's scouting sheet. Okay, still be the best. Despite that, we're gunning for you. And we'll see if he passes that test.
Yeah, we always talk about that to our players, that when you move up the scouting report, if you can maintain your efficiency and production, you're a real player, a real scorer. Anyway.
You're like an MVP candidate, right? Like you're
or all-star,
Yeah.
like depending on what your level of production efficiency is.
Right.
But if you're just a 3-point shooter and they take that away and you're nothing, okay, you have a role. But he's doing more than that.
Yeah.
So we'll find out in the postseason. I think he'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup for them, but I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think we'll do that playoff matchup on Thursday. I can see them winning a game or two in that series.
Yeah.
You know? Especially with, and we'll talk about this on Thursday, we're not sure what Harden's health is. Let's put it this way. Nobody is. He ain't 100% right now. And so that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Okay. There are a couple things happening we want to get to, but first, Greg Popovich, listen, they're in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. So, they're hoping the lottery balls. I hope he ends up there. Do you think Detroit's a well-run franchise?
I actually like Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I don't know how well-run it is, but I don't think it's terrible. They've had bad luck with Cade.
Okay.
Killian Hayes has improved. I think he's a solid player now. I like Jaden Ivey. I think he got better.
Yeah.
I think they got Wiseman. They got Bagley.
Imagine if they get Victor, because they're going to take Victor with the first pick.
Yeah,
they're not going to.
For sure, 100%. He goes number one.
Ooh,
yeah. Some guys will get moved probably at that point, but yeah, I wouldn't hate him. I wouldn't hate him going there.
No. All right. So Pop used his final post-game presser on Sunday to talk about what's going on with gun laws. And I know this, it's near and dear to everybody who has a conscience, right? And who's a human being, or at least it should be, as their fellow citizens being under attack. But as a husband of a wife who's a school teacher and children who are in college, whenever you hear a lockdown, I'm sure for a moment, you're like,
I do.
Shit,
panic.
What's happening?
Yep. I check my phone first to make sure I didn't miss a text from my wife or my kids. And I coach a lot of people all over the country that are playing in college and know a lot of people on campuses. Mm-hmm. And so sadly, this is the state of America now. So my only thing I wanted to talk about is I've been waiting for this. Pop does it. Steve Kerr does it. We need more people to do it. Mm-hmm. We did it during Black Lives Matter to some degree. We need to do it about guns. I think we should do it about women's rights too. The NBA has a chance to flex real muscles here. I'd like to see Adam Silver lead a charge. I'd like to see billionaires lead a charge of, like the way the Hawks open up their arena in the 2020 election. Maybe I'd like to see more of them speaking about on if we're not a hospitable place for women and anyone that does want to get shot. I mean, how could you even express displeasure if someone cuts me in line? In Florida, we have an open carry now. I have no idea if they have a gun. What am I supposed to do then? Yeah. So you got to keep your. It's just it's just bad. And so I love Pop really lost it in a good way. Like we need more of that. I think players and coaches and executives and billionaires.
100%. Like this what we've devolved to as a society is just it's not pretty, people. It really is not. A couple news and notes before we do something special to end the show. Dwayne Casey, speaking of the Pistons, will not be head coach next season. He will move upstairs into a front office role. Grinding everyday coaching is hard.
I'm so glad for him. Yeah. I think that's good for Detroit.
Yeah. I imagine you need a young player development guy with this team,
Oh, Houston fired their coach too.
Yes, correct. Steven Silas also will not be back.
Very young.
And they need a young player development coach as well.
Yeah, this is my chance to always preach on Ryan Pannone, the assistant coach for the Pelicans, who's probably the best player development guy out there in the world. He's in demand for sure. I can't go into the details, but he's in demand. The Pelicans know he's in demand. Lots of different places. And it would take some brave I've had an owner offer me a head job for this reason. And his team wasn't a young team. But he said, if he said to me, if we keep developing our players as good as they are now, they'll just get better. And he's like, you can find other people to help you do X and O's. And he didn't really know my X and O experience, which is, pretty extensive anyway. For these young teams, like someone needs to teach them how to play, how to develop their skills, how to be professionals, whatever. He'd be amazing. He's not the only one. He probably knows better than me who else will be out there. And we'll see. If you ask me the question, how well runs Detroit? We'll find out. How well is Houston? We'll find out. And who they hire. OKC got it right. Yeah. Billy Donovan went to Chicago. He's a very good coach.
Daniel's been excellent.
He's been terrific. So They need to do something like that. Willie Green's been good in New Orleans, too. Trey Murphy's gotten better. Alvarado got better.
Yeah.
They just had some bad luck with Zion's injuries, but it's not Willie's fault.
Sam Presti in OKC, he might know what he's doing. He might know a thing or two.
He does.
All right, David. I know this was very special for you day yesterday. Udonis Haslem, 20-year NBA veteran. His career has come to an end.
His playing career.
Yes, has come to an end. I think Bam gifted him a rocking chair, reminiscent of when Kareem was on his retirement tour.
20 years. He also scored 24 points.
Yes.
He might be the oldest guy to ever score 42 in league history.
Listen,
it's him or Kareem.
That skyhook was still very difficult to stop.
It's one or the other.
Stage.
Yeah.
But Udonis, of course, to those of you who listen to us and who've listened to Coach Thorpe for years, is so important because Udonis is David's first NBA client ever. And they have a special relationship. So I know yesterday was emotional for you. I know you and UD are going to connect sometime soon and, share some laughs and some good times.
I hope so. I have a great affection for Udonis. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He's busy with his things in Miami. He knows I'm a fan. I've tweeted him here and there. I know he follows me on Twitter, but we haven't talked. I've heard he always says nice things to people who know me. We in a sense got our NBA start together. He was an undrafted player that played a year in France. Graduated college at 21 as the winningest skater at that point of all time, 90 some odd wins in 4 years. Won 2 state championships. His team was back-to-back runner-up for the national championship in high school. Went to the final championship game in his second year in college.
A winner.
He had the second best efficiency game to Bill Walton's 21 and 22 against Memphis State when he went like 10 of 11 or whatever against Michigan State. They lost the game, but he was great. Yeah, he's a winner. And look what he's done in Miami. One of the highest IQ men I've ever met with basketball. He's the only guy I've ever seen that is ready for an NBA head coaching job right now. I have no idea what he's going to do because he's a successful businessman. But I see him now with the gray beard and the gray hair. Like this boy was 22 when I first started. I was young. He was very young. And God, he just was so competitive and so thoughtful and so earnest in his training. I had him for 2 summers and I love him. I have so much respect for him. I told him, he called me after they won their world championship game, the clinching championship game against the Mavericks in 2006, I think it was. He played really well in the final game. I had just seen him in Miami the week before, working him out. And first thing he said to me is, how my shot look? I'm like, who cares, man? You're a champion. And I told him, from now on, when I see him, I'll call you a champ. And so, but now the reason I want to bring it up is, yes, amazing career. He'll do whatever he wants to do. I'm sure he'll have his job in basketball forever. The NBA would probably love to hire him as an ambassador. He wouldn't be my first former student that's an ambassador for the league. And because he really represents all the right things. I'd love to see him make the Hall of Fame with this idea. Like, he's a non-all-star. Never close, probably, to be an all-star. Yet, look what he has accomplished. If we're really going to value winning, then we have to look at guys that impacted winning and culture towards winning. Shaq said publicly, we don't win in 06 without you. He was a starting power forward, so it's not that hard to say. But he's such a big part of that. I'd love to see the Hall of Fame start considering that and not just who has the biggest numbers, because he was always about we. And a much better player as a playmaker, much better passer than people realized. Stan Van Gundy ran a high-low offense with him and Shaq that was super effective. He couldn't have done it. Udonis couldn't feed the post the way he could. He really understood how to play, huge heart. And I'd love to see him be in the Hall of Fame for that.
I love that. Shout out to Udonis Haslem. Lifelong Miami Heat, right? Played his entire career for one franchise. It's, it's a rare thing these days. And I know fans love to see that. And really for Udonis, coach, Miami guy's he's South Florida guy's whole life.
He grew up in Miami, spent some time in Jacksonville, went back to Miami for high school, played for the Gators in Gainesville, which is 4.5 hours up the road, back down to Miami for 20 straight years. He's only played 1 year out of Florida, and that was in France, Chalon, France, for a year. That's it. He is Mr. Miami. They introduced him as Mr. Miami. He could be the mayor, probably be governor of our state. Not that he'd want to be. Yeah, his story is pretty incredible.
No, it's awesome. Shout out to Udonis Haslem on a great playing career. The Heat still alive. As we mentioned, I guess we'll see how far they go. The rest of the season after the play-in. they win their games and move forward. And on Thursday, guys, we will break down the playoff matchups that are at hand. We won't know who the 1 seeds play yet, but David and I, a little preview for you. It doesn't matter who the Bucks play
in the East.
In round
one. It may matter in the West.
It may matter in the West, but so let's just say we expect the Bucks to win that series pretty handily and advance to the conference semifinals. But we'll figure out who might the Nuggets play in round 1, which could be dangerous if it is the Lakers. All right, guys. Until Thursday, take care.